Hi there, tech people. It is great to have you on another show of Adapter TechX, where we explore the trends and those trends that influence our life in travel, tourism, and hospitality and parts of retail. Today's show, as you know, is always sponsored by our friends at No Vacancy and Hunter Gatherer, where we connect the dots in the TTH space in the Americas, Europe, the UK, and parts of the Middle East. Today's show is really interesting and maybe a little complicated, so you better tune in and perk up your ears because we're going to talk about blockchain and we're going to talk about Chain4Travel and how they are just revolutionizing a space that should have been revolutionized decades ago. So it is a pleasure to have Daniel Poerschke. I'm going to stop, screwed up your name. There we go. Poerschke. Hey, Art, we're going to do that again. Hi there, tech people. Welcome to another Adapters TechX show where we explore the travel and the trends that influence TTH, travel, tourism, and hospitality, and those that influence it. A big shout out to those at No Vacancy and our friends at Hunter Gatherer that help power the show and connect the dots between the Americas, the United Kingdom, Europe, and the Middle East. Today is an exciting show. We're going to actually talk about blockchain with Chain4Travel with Daniel Poerschke and Anke Hsu about how this is all going to happen and what they've done in an amazing amount of time and over a couple of months, really, since they formed and secured their funding for a long-range project. So pretty excited about that. And so we're going to spend some time really unpacking what that is. And Chain4Travel is really a company that has been formed and has been formed to deliver how to connect the dots in distribution and everything else that you do in travel into one single environment, working with many partners. This is kind of big open source conversation. I know that I haven't given it justice, but we're going to explore that, and we're going to have the team come in and really tell us more about how this project happened and where it's going. And it's a long range, exciting project. So with the, Daniel and Anke, it's great to have you. And I'm going to just unmute you here so that we can, have you live. So this is great. I mean, it's such an honor to have you both. We got to know each other a little bit at Apaleo's event, and the story is so compelling that we just got to talk about it. So, whoever wants to jump in here, I know that I didn't do it justice, but let's kind of explain what the relationship is between, the company formation and then the product that's coming out of this, which is Camino.
Well, thanks, Sean, for having us here. Feeling honored to be on your show, actually, and explain to the Twisted Growth a little bit what Chain4Travel does and what Camino is. So Chain4Travel is a company that was formed end of last year. And we have a pretty high goal. Our blockchain Camino, the technology that we are offering to the travel industry, aims at underlying or being the foundation of every process that is related to travel. As such, it can be used for all of the use cases that we know today, right? Building loyalty programs, doing bookings as well, although we think this is going to be far down the road. But the most important feature of any blockchain is that you get to interact with business partners without having some central entity that you both have to trust. It started all with Bitcoin more than 10 years ago, where people thought, oh, we here don't trust the banks. Remember the financial crisis. So they started to think about how a decentralized coordination could happen. And this bears a lot of advantages to all of the market participants because the network provides the network replaces that central entity that both business partners have to trust and then replaces it with security by design. The network secures every transaction. The network makes sure that no one is able to double spend and no one is able to fraud.
So you're the managing director and the product manager, and from my layperson's view, that it sounds like you're just connecting all these travel sequential events and settling at every stage between when I think about getting on a plane to maybe ordering my Uber and then getting in the Uber and then getting to the airport and dropping my bags, or I had another form of transportation, and then there's fees and all this other stuff, and you get in and you got all these journeys that you're on. And I know this is very simplistic, but for some reason it sounds like for once there's a company out here trying to solve for a real travel wallet and use blockchain as the facilitator to do that. Am I getting this all wrong?
No, that's exactly the right direction. We have the vision that Camino, and that's actually on English, it's the way into the future.
Come on, people know what the Camino is. There's 180 to 300,000 walking.
Yes, exactly. So so the way. Exactly. So the way into the future, and we have the vision that Camino is the shared infrastructure for the travel industry, that on top can travel stakeholders from all kinds, suppliers, tour operators, IT providers can build decentralized applications. And while it's all in a network, the customer has actually the opportunity to buy services or travel products on the network within one wallet. So you're absolutely right. So for the customer, that would be a huge step forward, because we know, multimodal travel is quite complicated today, for example.
Yeah, that's a great point. When I noticed that in your timeline, the Camino token is on its way, right? It's in product development and it's on your site, and people should go check out Camino and Chain4Travel online, chain4travel.com. And in that, it sounds like you're going to solve this payment model through, do I get issued one of these tokens, the Camino token, and then I'm able to buy all the services courtesy of my secure token? Or is it more? I know it's more complicated than that. But.
Yeah. So if you would like to, if you're interested, we have a pre-sale coming up, so you can actually buy Camino token, and we hope that, of course, many participate already in the pre-sale and later in the ICO. But most importantly, we hope that, and we have a lot of supporters thinking about use cases already. We hope that, with the start of our mainnet in fall, a lot of stakeholders will be building decentralized applications, so you actually can use the Camino token to do the transactions, or even pay if the exchange rate is favorable. You can even pay with Camino, or you get incentivized by an operator or a supplier like an airline to buy with them rather than with somebody else.
So if you can give us a use case, and you take, a Neanderthal like me, and you can go, if he can understand it, anybody can understand it. Mm. So if we take a use case and say, look, I've just been exposed to Camino, and let's say it's 1 year down the road, and we've been exposed to it. It's a great story. I want to participate because it seems much easier for me to actually have one place to go for my travel choices or other choices. How would I use that coin, and how do you think I'm going to access these services from these multiple supporters?
I think we need to step one more back. We're getting to use cases. Of course, we will. We need to take one step back and have a look at what Camino actually really is. The blockchain technology today is roughly in the same spot as the internet was in the late 90s.
Right? Great point.
It was a new disruptive thing that only a fraction of the people globally used and knew what it is and how it works, and it bared a lot of potential to everybody. Right, a lot of business models were invented. A lot of people made money, and we learned what doesn't work as well.
Web.0, 1.0.
Yeah, Web.0. And why did that? Because everybody was able to connect with everybody in the world quite easily, because we suddenly had a network where every piece of information was free and could be retrieved and could be used and could be monetized. And then humanity went and built fences in the internet, right? Today, if I want to see what is the availability of some hotel, me as a tour operator, right, not me as a traveler, I would first need to build some kind of API. I need to build that interface. Before that, I need to reach out to the people who run this database or this interface and make some paper contract and talk to them. And the process of then retrieving the data is very long, cumbersome, expensive. What we are trying to achieve with blockchain technology, specifically for the tourism industry, is recreating a space that is quite similar to the internet in the late 90s, where all information is free. But, and this is a difference to the late 90s, every information can be monetized instantly. The booking, for example. The tour operator could buy a room from a hotelier, pay for it straight away, or if the hotelier allows it, pay later, without having a paper contract, without going through this cumbersome process of contracting that hotelier. This is the future that we're envisioning. All information that is touristically relevant can be broadcasted on Camino and can be bought if the provider says, I want this to be bought, right? So we are recreating that kind of freedom that we had when the internet started. And quite by nature, when the internet started, no one really knew what's going to come, right? You just mentioned Netflix. Who would have thought that we would never go to a Blockbuster and rent out DVDs anymore? And we're in the same situation. We don't know exactly what kind of use cases, what kind of business models will pop up in the future, but we do know, because we're doing workshops and brainstorming sessions with all of the potential partners who are interested in Camino. We do know that many of the use cases, if not all of the use cases that exist today, can be put on the blockchain as well. Some of them work better. Some of them are a bit complicated to do, and some of them only become possible because of the blockchain. So this is really what we're trying to do. All right. Getting back to your question, will the traveler of tomorrow pay with Camino for their travel? Maybe. I think this will be an option, definitely. Will the traveler in fall, when our Camino mainnet goes live, paying Camino? Most likely not. This will take a little bit of time, but what we will facilitate straight away after the go live is business partners talking to each other in a much more efficient, better, and faster way. This is the main ingredient, right? One additional thing is quite similar to the internet. It's a decentralized organization. The backbones that run the internet today are operated by different companies, different stake and shareholders. So one of them taking over the internet is quite literally not possible, right? Even Google couldn't delete the internet, so to say, right? They could delete the index, but that's it. The infrastructure would remain the same. And quite similarly, Camino will be operated and governed by players from the tourism industry. So it's not really us building a gateway to this brave new world, but it's us providing the infrastructure to the tourism industry and then building together with the tourism industry that future that we are envisioning. Part of that is going to be paying in Camino.
Right. And so, when we think about it, you're creating that great net for somebody to just, they come in and join the platform as a, largely B2B for a long time. It's going to be the supporters, right? The supporters, the providers. Is that a right way to think of the euphemism? Yeah. So, and go ahead.
Well, I think there will be use cases, I think from the start, maybe late this year, where end customers are going to benefit from Camino as well. Most likely, they will not even know that Camino is in the background, because in the end, the blockchain is nothing more than a glorified transactional database, right? Which it's a tool that I can use for many things. We believe that in the beginning, customers most likely wouldn't know that there's blockchain technology in the back. Just like, for example, those COVID tracker apps,
Yeah.
many of them has blockchains in the back. Customers don't know, or end users don't know. But then gradually increasing, travelers will have their own actual real crypto wallet that then actually holds all their tickets, all their activities, all the loyalty points that they might get at one place. That's the real vision. Yes, this is gradually going to happen. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's going to happen in the long run. Remember, late 90s, Netflix today, and hence the name Camino, because it's a long way.
It's a long way. And you know, when you think about the same metaphor going back to the days of the internet, it's all about trust as well. So it was that moment when you were able to buy online, for those that remember that, some don't, that first moment when credit cards were requested, that moment where that trust between different users and building up that trust. And skepticism is always the normal cause in a new technology or a new methodology. And this is just super exciting about this. So, you know, as we pivot a little bit, and you think it would be great then to talk about, you know, why did you guys at this point in time tackle this problem that has been really underpinning some of the frustrations of users and travelers since, you know, forever? Why now?
I think blockchain has been around now for some years, and there was a first wave of companies that tried to get into it. But yeah, as with the internet, the technology was not there yet in terms of scalability and transaction per second. And we think looking at the technology today, it's the right moment to come in, especially after a pandemic, because hopefully after a pandemic, because everybody is ready to change and to do business differently, because we realized legacy systems can bring us only so far into the future. So we looked at the blockchains out there, and what we are doing is we took Avalanche as a base. We forked Avalanche because Avalanche had some certain advantages, but we're building actually a mainnet dedicated to the travel industry on the base of that, to cater to the needs of scalability, to the needs of high transaction numbers per second, also to be able to manage transaction fees in the network, which is an important issue for the travel industry.
And so it must be a great time to be doing your PhD, because you got some really great content here that you can do this.
Well, no time. For the moment, it's difficult to find time.
I'm impressed that this whole model got baked into your thesis. So this is great. So that's a good way to do it. Yeah, it's so interesting that you bring that up in the sense of, generally as the mandate for the adapters is, and one of the core principles of when we wrote the book was getting this industry in this space, TTH, to look over the fence and embrace what other industries are already playing in. Like medtech, fintech, are way ahead of where we are.
Supply chain,
supply chain, logistics. I mean, I know the logistics guys get a lot of grief right now, but imagine if they hadn't done what they done, we'd be in a world of hurt. So we kind of think of it as the before times and the after times. So now we're in the after times. And so this after times, when you look about 18 months, 2 years ahead, where do you think this product will be? Where in its life cycle? And what's a year after that? What does that look like then? So 18 months, 2 years, how many supporters do you think? And then a year after that, what does it look like?
Well, we have currently our schedules are full, like over flooding, because we are retrieving immense interest from the market. Everybody wants to learn more, wants to get in contact, which is another sign that we hit the right time to come up with this. What's up in the future is, as Anke mentioned, is our pre-sale, go live this year. And then we will continue developing our Camino blockchain, there will be functionalities that make it even easier for companies to make business together. There will be platforms where providers and suppliers can showcase what they have on offer with the possibility to buy instantly. Just what I mentioned, right? Fast transactions, fast interaction between
Can I
players,
just
B2B, but also B2C.
dip it in here, Daniel? Is so as a example, would it be that an ideal example might be an airline has decided to interact with a distribution provider differently, courtesy of the highway that you've built?
Yeah.
So that,
Exactly. Oh, it could be that the whole payment settlement issue is solved differently because we know that payment costs are very high for airlines at the moment. So within the network, a blockchain network, costs are very, settlement costs are zero, close to zero. So very, we calculate, and it's depending on the complexity of the transaction, that a transaction would cost around $0.01. So that's totally different from what we experience in other.
This is equally for the audiences. This is immensely disruptive. You're actually broadening it in many respects. Yeah, it's for travel, but you're also taking the intermediaries like Stripe and others that say, look, this will allow a far more efficient non-intermediary world. So now what I think maybe people aren't understanding, you're actually digging into other categories that were, API related, a wedge in a Stripe or a wedge in a PayPal or one of the many that out there.
And
remove that.
Actually, what we see in that area, actually, that's one of my research areas as well. We see rapid re-intermediation from those players, and they are digging into the crypto space. They are providing payment exchange engines, providing payment with crypto to be relevant also in the future. So that's what we see. That might be different from what we saw with the internet, where some players took a long time to adjust. I think everybody is conscious today that there's a new technology out there, and we need to experiment. We need to look what the benefits are for each problem that we have.
So in essence, you're quite like the entire $7.4 trillion category, and kind of going right at these steps that are pretty costly when you look at the transaction volume across a very disparate space, and you're going right at it. That's a big disruptor title.
Well, that's the opportunity, and it's not. We are providing the infrastructure, which is important to say because we need partners, right? We have already a lot of supporters, and daily we see the good feedback. But ultimately, it will be the community that solves that together. Yeah.
Yeah. And when we say we are providing the infrastructure, that only means we are developing the infrastructure, right? We are not charging any license or setup fee, nothing like that. We are putting intellectual work into that vision that we are striving for. And after the go live, we will hand over all of that intellectual property, all of the token reserves. We will hand this over to a foundation for two reasons, basically. First of all, we do want to make absolutely sure that this infrastructure cannot be bought by one single entity, and then we charge an entrance fee, and it's the same thing all over again. And number two, we want to create a forum for the industry where they can, or we can all collaborate and discuss common issues. For example, we have this decade-old dilemma of data formats, where there's no single forum, no single discussion round where everybody sits at the same table, and this is the chance for the industry to actually come together and decide those most important issues that have been accompanying us since the beginning of tourism.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine a startup that wants to offer service, travel product services today. They need to go to some companies that have the content aggregated to actually be able to play in the market. With blockchain would be different because they would be entering the network and the content would be there, available for them. And that would be a huge difference to today, and would give us really the potential of innovation, right? Because we don't need to worry about how we get the content to play.
So, I'm obligated to ask. So, how do you guys make money?
That's
You're
my
running a
favorite
business
question.
here.
Yeah.
That's my favorite question. Okay. If I want to join Camino, I have costs, quite definitely. Those costs come from three sources. The first cost is the transaction cost, that transaction fee that I need to pay. It's quite low, Anke mentioned it. The second cost is on every blockchain, trust is a huge issue. On Camino, we create that trust by running all of the sellers who want to make business on Camino. We run those to a KYC and KYB process, so they are verified. And on Camino, we will flag them as verified. Imagine like this verified tick
Yep.
on Twitter, something
Yep.
like that. This verification comes at a cost, and there will be time where we will actually monetize this. Think of some two-digit euro amount, nothing that huge, right? The third source of cost is if I, as a market participant of the travel industry, want to run my own validator node, like I want to join this table, I want to govern, I want to decide the fate of Camino, then I am to run this validator node, and I need to stake some amount of Camino token, which is currently 200,000 Caminos, which translate roughly into 20,000 euros. This is like a bond. If I ever were to stop being a validator, I get this money back. Right? So this is the invest that I have to do. And as mentioned, none of these sources of cost is our license or setup fee, because there is none. So back to your question, how do we make money? We are seed funded currently. We are seed funded not by some venture capital, but we are funded by market participants of the travel industry who believe in the vision. We actually asked our CEO and founder Ralph to build this. So that's the first income of money that we have currently. The second is our pre-sale of the Camino token. And then there's going to be an ICO, like initial coin offering, where publicly Camino tokens will be sold. Now, this is not a sustainable business model, obviously, because there's one-time selling events. So after we have moved all of the intellectual property, all of the token reserve over to the Camino Foundation, Chain4Travel becomes a DApp developer on Camino. So after that, we will start building our own apps. We'll be providing our own value to the Camino blockchain. And there we are going to generate our business model.
So others would others be allowed then to develop for the Camino?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, everybody's invited. Yeah.
Currently, our main and foremost rule is we do not build the apps, right? We are not developing anything on top of Camino. We are just providing Camino as it is. After we have stopped being the facilitator of Camino, we become a DApp developer on Camino.
Yeah, exactly. So once
but this is a little bit down the road.
Do that work. That's easy for everybody to understand, but it's a fascinating way to build it. Great way to also fund it. Very fascinating stuff. So when we continue to explore the next and best, so you're attracting talent, right? Labor is a big issue in the tech communities today, attracting the highest and best to every industry. I mean, I just came out from the Dublin Tech Show, and labor and tech talent was top of mind, and it sounds like that won't change even if we run into a recession. How are you going about attracting the best and brightest talent to join the organization with something of this magnitude? What's your USP for talent acquisition?
I think, shall I? Daniel,
Yeah, please,
and
please.
you jump in. So I think it's the vision. You know, if a person works in the travel industry and sees that the vision that we have, it's very attractive to them to be part of it and really be part of a change in the travel industry for the better. So that's one. The other side is, of course, I mean, we are also looking for developers. For the moment, we are quite well staffed, so that was not a huge problem for us, but we are conscious of that problem.
Yeah.
So and we are well staffed for the moment, but of course, I mean, it's a joint effort with our partners then to build infrastructure on our side, Chain4Travel, but then decentralized applications on top of the infrastructure. So we hope that in a joint effort, and with the joint vision, we will be attracting talent to this project.
To add on that, obviously we are a travel tech company, right? So we're a tech company. We need developers. Those are hard to find in the current times. But having blockchain as the primary technology in the field makes us quite attractive. That combined with the opportunity to change a whole industry adds more of that attractiveness. And then on the other hand, by really having that rule that I mentioned before, we are not building the apps. We have the opportunity to focus on the core functionalities. Right, we are currently not very broad in what we are developing. We are really narrow and focusing on what is the most important feature set today, and that is making sure transactions are secure, making sure that validators can actually vote, making sure that they can be flagged as verified. Those are the key functionalities that we are focusing on right now. And that's make it very easy to streamline our development process as well.
And I also I want to add that we are in close contact with partners and stakeholders that want to build through our Discord channel, and everybody is part of that. So we are building a community there with our team, but also with teams from partners and travel stakeholders, and we're building a good attractive culture there because everybody can join in, and it's very transparent also what kind of questions we are talking about, and so we are all on that Discord channel and discussing and questions are coming in, and so it's really a really instant gratification if you see we are progressing because we are talking daily to several partners.
That's great to have engaged. So when we are then speaking about the different pillars, right? So we've got the stakeholder that is the people, because the people are critical to building this amazing product line. The second part is you've got the investors. Now you think about the supporters. So I'm saying this, you're not, is that all supporters are not created equal. Can you share maybe some of the important first few? What are the categories that you think need to be participating at this stage early and often? Or do you feel comfortable answering that question?
Well, Daniel, you want to? We are talking to any different categories. Apparently, I mean, it's very attractive for suppliers. Yeah, you know that.
Yeah. So how would you define a supplier? So if we were
suppliers,
saying
airlines, hoteliers, activity provider, even so that's car rental. So that's supplier side, rail. And then on the other side, it's the IT provider that are very interested naturally, but also tour operators, travel agents, because we can find even further from the core of travel, we can find use cases that, for example, loyalty, NFTs, that can be very attractive to those players. And quick wins.
But like the first one to jump over the fence, you need the airlines, you need the car guys, you need you need the people that move people. Probably.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, a network where we want touristic partners to interact and to collaborate with each other doesn't make a lot of sense if there's no supply, right? If there is no providers of services on the network, doesn't make any sense. That's why we are very happy that in our list of supporters, there are quite a few providers of touristic activities and products already, and we are getting more traction in the market from day to day, actually. Another interesting aspect is we are getting approached a lot by startups that want to do business in the travel industry, coming from the travel industry, and have this one idea where they think this is I need some transaction database on that is connected to some of the providers,
Right.
and then they find us, and then they tell us, I have waited for you. Can we please get in contact? So this is very interesting.
Yeah.
This is very interesting because there will be new business models already now coming up, right? But when it comes to supporters or providers or validators, the really crucial thing for us is to have many validators from different kinds of providers, right? We need airlines, car rentals, OTAs, but hoteliers as well on the network to make sure that it doesn't get one-sided in some way, right? We need the most heterogeneous group, I hope I pronounce it right, as possible. That's really our goal, because we want to represent, or Camino is the platform to represent the whole tourism industry.
Exactly.
Not only airlines or hotels. So therefore we need a well-mixed group.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you define accommodation, how are you thinking about accommodation? How do you define that in your world?
Okay. Someone who will provide the ability to stay. Right.
And that includes, that could be short rental, that could be hotels, that could be some time of Airbnb, which formed the category in itself. So yeah.
So if we took a use case, you kind of, and again, you could apply that to vehicles, right? Is it car rental, or does it include Uber, or the sharing group? So all these, and I think what's important for our audience is going, if you take what you know and they're all disparate, you're actually aggregating entire categories. Vehicles, transportation has a definition. Rail is different than car, but you need the mobility. And to have that, to put together that homogeneous, that universe. I think you're more of a universe. My God, the universe that you're creating to connect.
Not to speak of the megaverse.
We moved past the metaverse. We're doing the universe.
Universe.
Right?
Exactly.
You're basically providing the Big Bang Theory here, in many respects, to make all these organizations. This world can be now attractive to microservices, and clearly, that wasn't the case previously, and maybe some of the economics didn't work. I mean, is that going to attract a whole different level of technologists into the travel, tourism, and hospitality space?
It might attract technology companies to join the travel industry, which is always the case when there's something cool and new coming up. Then technologies always go after it and see, oh, there's a business case I can make. But what we are really hoping for is that the great new travel revolution will be built on Camino and will be built by some participant of the travel industry. When you look at Uber or Airbnb, those guys disrupted the travel space without being part of the travel space. They came from the side and they took business from tourism because they had a better product. And what we are now offering is tourism by itself could reinvent itself. So we are really hoping for the new disruptive, cool new product, and we really hope it to come from some of the partners or supporters that we already gathered or that waiting to be discovered.
Well, this sounds like an absolute massive opportunity for the travel industry to just look at itself and go, let's do this. I can't imagine anybody not talking to you. So, as we wrap up, it's unimaginable.
Yeah, everybody's invited. Yeah,
which is great. It's one big party. So, as we wrap up and you think about what your influences are, so you had to look beyond. Anke, when you're thinking about this and you were getting involved in this, I mean, were you reading about this? What attracted you to do this? What influenced you? Your thinking and participating in a project like this? What was the road to getting to here?
Well, I was getting into blockchain quite some years ago, actually. Not in the beginning, but the 1718, so the first wave, as one of the hypes, and I got really fascinated by the technology because, in my eyes, it provided disruptive features, especially for the travel industry to do things differently. So when I started my dissertation last year, and then got to know Chain4Travel, was a very easy decision to join, because Chain4Travel actually reflects the vision that I had in mind when I was keeping myself busy with blockchain technology, doing courses and seeing the potential for the travel industry.
And here it is. And Daniel, from your perspective, you left a company to join Chain4Travel, and your product leader over there in a different space. What was the road from there to here, and what were you reading, or what was influencing going like, I got to go do that?
I used to work in a traveler company that's a peak work.
Yep.
That is in the business of connecting business partners with each other.
Yep.
And I was one of the persons in charge of making sure that business partners actually made business together. And what made this job difficult and sometimes painful was the long time span between first point of contact and first time money changes hands. Measured in months, this is unbearable to me. And then I saw this problem, and I wrote my master's thesis on a B2B marketplace that could be based on blockchain and enabling this instant doing business together without even knowing each other. And then 1 or 2 years later, I think Ralph has read this master's, and he called me up and he said, listen, Daniel, I read your master's. Nice little idea that you have there, but we're going to make it really big, and we're going to make something awesome out of this. And he asked, would you like to join? And that was really, it was a no-brainer to just drop my pen and join Chain4Travel immediately.
Yeah, I want to actually add, because Daniel touched on a very important point that what I was seeing in the industry as well. I was working in airline distribution, and the whole topic of new distribution capability, NDC, and the many APIs that we need to deal with. Even if it's standard, it's a different integration for every airline, and airlines need to take care of the different integrations that they want to do with the distribution partners. So I think that blockchain and blockchain network Camino offers the potential to have actually just one integration and then have access to that content of an airline. That would be So we have so many APIs in the travel industry to move content, so that on Camino it would be different. Yeah,
clearly. So you both have stressful environments. You're thinking big things. You're trying to get customer support. So when you get off work, or maybe even at work, what's your favorite comfort food? You go like, I've had a tough day. I need. So finish the sentence. I've had a tough day. I need. So Anke, why don't you go first?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Clearly, chocolate every day.
Clearly chocolate. Are you consuming a lot of chocolate, or are you just some chocolate?
Too much sometimes, yeah.
For me, it's everything deep fried. That's the real soul food.
So of course, got the interruption. So if you could just repeat it again, what's your comfort food?
Sean, you're breaking up. I'm not sure it's my connection or.
Yeah. It's on my end. It's on my end. Oh, 1 second. So we're back now. We're back. So and Daniel, if you were to finish the sentence, I had a tough day. I need
anything deep fried. That's my soul.
Give me the carbs. Just give me the carbs. So on that note, thank you both for taking a lot of your time to speak about probably one of the most. We've done a lot of these shows, and this is probably one of the most exciting big disruptors that's in the space. So I'll be right back to you in a second. So, again, everybody out there in Adaptors TechX world, you've got to stick with the entire story of this, and we're actually going to do a short version after this as well. But when you really think about it, I think the quote of the day is, this is tourism and the travel and tourism hospitality space being able to actually disrupt itself as opposed to being disrupted by others. Clearly, if you eat large copious amounts of chocolate and some deep fried food, you're going to get through this a lot easier and join the team at Chain4Travel. But nonetheless, the essence of this is a huge opportunity for the travel, tourism, and hospitality space to actually aggregate their services and make it easy, super easy, to transact in an environment that is very complicated. And for a company to think of themselves as, the leader in trust, and then connecting those trust points is where effectively we become an industry that becomes the leading disruptor as opposed to being dragged into disruption. So big thanks to Daniel and Anke for taking the time to share their thoughts. It is complicated, but it's not that complicated when you think about it. It's connecting all the dots and removing all the friction. So get involved, reach out to Chain4Travel, learn. This is an incredible opportunity for those that are curious and those that are leaders of product development, their CIOs and their boards, to reach out to Chain4Travel, chain4travel.com. And I'm sure you'll reach out to either Daniel or Anke and get involved in the conversation. What's the worst thing that can happen? You just say, I don't know and I need to know. And there's a conversation that I think is wide open for people to have. So thanks to everybody at No Vacancy and our friends at Hunter Gatherer that helped produce our show, and equally connect the dots in the Americas, Europe, the UK, and the Middle East. Until next week, and expect more content that came out of ULF, Urban Living Festival, and lots more tech conversations. Have a great week.